It's time for expansion. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to the Front Cover Podcast YouTube channel. Today, it's expansion time. I'll be discussing why the NBA might be expanding soon, what it means for the economy of the league, and of course, what teams or what cities deserve expansion teams, and why, and what may happen in the conference realignment, all the good stuff coming up in the next 8 minutes. So make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. And hair's getting a bit long, so we're rocking some fresh cuts today. Hung up some more stuff. Mandalorian is gone actually. It's right there. But Tatum, the best poster in the world. More basketball, and of course our logo up on top. So about a week ago, maybe a bit less, Adam Silver in his annual preseason press conference, said something very interesting. Because the past 10 years, maybe, however long Silver has been a commissioner, his stance has always been, yes, expansion would be nice, but it's not something the NBA is considering at this moment. However, he said last week that the NBA has been looking at some, quote, analysis on the economic and competitive impacts of expansion. We've been putting a little bit more time into it than we were pre-pandemic, but certainly not to the point that expansion is on the front burner, close quote. Obviously, the thing that must be on the front burner of Adam Silver's mind and the NBA as a whole is coronavirus and the things that are associated with that, safety, all that stuff, fans, obviously. But why did Adam Silver change his mind? Well, basically said for the money, because the NBA has lost close to billions of dollars from the pandemic and are bound to lose more. So if billionaire people buy these two new expansion teams, that money is like a fee to get into the NBA, and that fee that's paid is evenly distributed between the 30 current NBA teams, from the Atlanta Hawks all the way down to the Washington Wizards, alphabetically, of course. And it's distributed 30 different ways. So each team gets 150 million, depends on how much the teams are sold for. I would imagine that in this situation, they'd go for the biggest markets to get the most money in. We could be looking at $5 billion from these two teams combined, just paid into the league, maybe even more, because there are some cities in the NBA or in the country that are big markets, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So we could be looking at $150 to $200 million per team. That covers an entire year salary cap, and then some, So that's definitely a plus. And as he says, competitive impacts basically means that there's enough talent in the NBA to do this. In the 80s and 90s, the talent was too diluted. It wasn't as competitive as someone had hoped for, because they're expanding every few years. There's 2 new teams, 4 new teams. And they basically had 6 teams in about 12 years, and that was just too much for that one decade. But now there's many teams have guys that, like the Indiana Pacers, just watched them today, beat my Celtics by 1 point. I don't know why Tatum took that step-back jumper, step-back 3, deep 3, with 8 seconds left, but whatever. But they had like 10 guys that are just quality NBA players, and 8 of them could be starters on most NBA teams. So the NBA is just super deep now, and that's a big reason why Silver probably thinks that it's time for expansion, right? So, but what teams? Where could the teams be heading? What cities could the teams be heading to? I would say I have 2 surefire bets. If I were to bet on this, for whatever reason, I don't gamble, I don't bet, and I'm broke, so I don't have any money to bet anyway. If I could bet on 2 cities, I'd say Seattle is my number 1 bet, and Las Vegas is the other one, because, like I said, those are the 2 biggest markets, I would say, available that don't have an NBA team, and NBA is trying to get as much money as possible from this, I'm sure. And Seattle, they're definitely getting a team. They're robbed 15 years ago, 12 years ago, when super freaking rich owner Howard Schultz sold the team to a group in OKC, who then subsequently moved the team from Seattle to OKC, obviously, and that's how we have the OKC Thunder. But basically, he didn't want the team anymore because the because he would have to pay for a new arena. He wanted public funds basically to pay for a new arena. That's why I took the team. At least that's from what I can gather. They're very. If you're ranking basketball season in the U.S., they're definitely up there, maybe top 5. Rich in basketball culture, obviously. So many NBA players have come from there, and so many more will. So it just makes sense to have a team there, and just the fans would love it. Obviously, there's a new NHL team coming in the near future. The Seattle Krakens, some of that. The Seahawks are doing well. Just that's they love sports, and it would be a good spot for a NBA team. And obviously, it's a big market, massive market. Other big market is Las Vegas. That's not the only reason I would say they're not. I wouldn't say guaranteed to get a team, but very likely to get a team because they already have a group trying to get a team there. They've been trying for a while to get a team like Memphis or Minnesota, like Grizzlies and Timberwolves, to perhaps potentially move to Las Vegas. Doing that for a while. The Timberwolves could eventually get moved there, and there are other teams that could as well in smaller markets could get moved to Las Vegas. And their big market, it would kind of add a new dynamic to team building. You know, which players would fit in Las Vegas, which players would not, because obviously there's tons of distractions in Vegas. Like you'd want James Harden as your key guy, most likely. Though he did drop 44 and 17 after spending a month at the strip club, so who knows. Some other possibles that I've noticed, thought about, heard about. St. Louis, big-ish East Coast market. Not East Coast, but East Side market. Virginia, I mean, I'm from Virginia, so maybe that's why. But Cincinnati, maybe. Tampa Bay and Nashville, probably the two up there from the east, that area, the eastern side of the U.S. that would probably get a team, because those are the two places that the Raptors are kind of deciding, debating about whether to go to. And we're going to Tampa. But those, I guess cities they're fighting for, and I think they both have arenas, or they're building arenas. I know Buffalo was at one point a factor in that, but I don't see them getting a team. Tampa Bay did end up getting the Raptors, like I said, so maybe that's one of the teams, one of the cities that gets a team. If both teams were to be formed in the Western Conference, say Las Vegas and Seattle, that would put it uneven, and the conferences would be there'd be 15 in the East Conference and 17 in the Western Conference. And I would have to think that we would be some realignments, with perhaps Memphis or Minnesota or New Orleans heading over to the East Coast. Now, if they do put a team in Nashville, that's going to be harder unless they put another team in Tampa Bay or whatever, because Nashville and Memphis are supposed to be closer to each other, and it'd be weird to have those in different conferences, even though they're both kind of East. And then if you put one in Nashville, then it'd be 16 in the East, and if you put Memphis there, then that'd be 17, so that's just weird. So that's another reason I think Nashville will get a team. I could see definitely Tampa and Seattle, Tampa and Vegas, but I think Vegas and Seattle are the two most likely. And having 16 and 16 in each conference would be amazing for Silver, because he wants to do those tournaments like no other. We've heard, I guess it was over a year ago now, that he was potentially debating about having like mid-season tournaments with all 16 teams, which would be kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone would actually care about him or play for him. There's not a whole lot of incentive, because these guys got money. They don't really want picks. The players don't really want picks, because that's another guy that could take their spot, So I do want that to happen. Like a March Madness type style, be like March Madness, but cut in half, kind of size-wise. So I think that's basically it. And if you want to hear, I guess, 20 minutes of my thoughts instead of 9 or whatever, link would be in the description to the Front Cover Podcast, recording a podcast tomorrow or today, whatever, with Ryan Stockard. So, and turns 17 tomorrow. So if you want to wish me happy birthday, I will not object. I'll be back on, who knows, next week. It'll be 2021 when I get back. So make sure to subscribe so you won't miss the video. And I'm out. Peace.